You are listening to The Ben Keech Show, where every day the objective is simple. Ben will never stop fighting the fight and lighting the light on topics that affect you every day.
Welcome back, all of you citizens of whatever country you're from. Welcome to the Ben Keech Show. My name is Ben, and I got a new topic for you today. This is episode 14. 14 times by myself I've sat behind this wonderful microphone and talked about anything and everything. And today is no different. Episode 14 is what's wrong with midlife crisis? What's wrong with midlife crisis? Now you might, oh my goodness. So first of all, if you're, under a particular age, you're like tuned out. This is not me. I don't even, midlife crisis is weird. Maybe that's what happened to my dad. Just chill out. This actually is for everybody, women and men, and regardless of age. You just have to stick with me for a second to understand the reason why, because of the episodes I've done, I feel like I don't know if it's under talked about, but it might not be completely understood, and the ramifications are huge. So let's get into this today and kind of discover, let's talk about midlife crisis. So let's just take the general things that we think about. We think about maybe a guy. We talk about men usually, right? And we think about them buying a red sports car, or just some of their behaviors. They're trying to, what's going on with them? They're acting weird and they're searching for something, and what's going on? So I'm going to define midlife crisis first. I think definitions are important. And when I say midlife crisis, what I'm saying is at some point in the middle of your life, there are things that you believed should happen. There's things that you wanted to happen, and they're not happening. And when this happens to people in their teens or their 20s, it's a different reaction oftentimes, because we recognize our youth. We look at this long, large path that we have in front of us. So it's fine, whatever. But what I'm here to say is that we need to work at this situation to help people understand it a little better. We need to know when the problem started and why. So let's first talk about expectations. So I had expectations of my life when I was younger. And mine was really, honestly, mostly focused on being a dad, being a husband. Those are things I could not wait to have happen. Even when I was a teenager, I looked forward to that day. And that was my driving force. Okay. And then the other thing became a reality, which I've talked about in previous episodes, was just wanting to impact kids, wanting to be a teacher, wanting to be a coach, wanting to help people. And that was my goals. Teenager, young adult, that's what I was going to do. So I go to college, I find a girl, we get married, we have children. My life is coming together. All the things that I set out to do, I'm doing. I would tell people that from the age of 40 and before, outside of my mom dying, I had relatively nothing go wrong with my life, basically. It was pretty simple, maybe very even typical, but I was impacting people as a teacher. I was married, and there was wonderful moments with my marriage, and I had 3 children who were wonderful. So what else? It's fine. Not everything's perfect, but a lot of things are really good. That's how I viewed it. Now, how does a crisis come in? The crisis comes in when what we thought we were going to do, what we always had our mind set on doing, it's not going. So as my life continued in my 40s, which of course I'm not going to get into, but the stuff with my wife and I wasn't the best, and that was causing stress on her, and it was causing stress on me, and we were doing our best to kind of work through some of those things. My And both of us, she's a wonderful mother, and I do my best, obviously, as a father. We knew what the ramifications for our children were going to be. That was bringing stress. And so for me, those things, and then of course, coupled with everything with my teaching going berserko in 2014, it was a lot. And so my crisis was the things that I valued and the things that I cared about most were all of a sudden not where I wanted them to be. And now we have setbacks. And what is my life going to look like now? Am I going to be mowing yards for the rest of my life? Which, of course, isn't bad. And it was an honorable profession. And I worked hard and made good money. But that wasn't my motivation. For some people, it may be. And this is why this varies from person to person. I'm telling you what I had to do in the midst of my midlife crisis. What I had to do when things were crumbling around me is I had to get back to this place of reevaluating what drives me, what motivates me. How am I going to live a life to where when I am the day before that I die, I look, yes, I overcame some things. I didn't give up and quit. I continued to pursue relationships with my kids, even though when there were some tricky things going on. I found a way post marriage to look at relationships in a fresh way and to ultimately figure out even if a relationships are right for me or not, which I've wrestled with that as well. I had to sit in my kind of despair, if you will, but I had to have the vision of what it looked like above water. So kind of a way you could kind of see this from a visual standpoint is imagine if you are, in a lake, and lakes are kind of murky, and you're kind of lying on your back, but pretend you can breathe, and you're like halfway down Lake of the Ozarks. And so it's kind of gross. And you can see the light above you. You know that it exists, but you really can't see even 2 feet in front of you if anything is going on. That's the crisis. The crisis clouds your vision. It distorts reality. And you can spiral into this place where I'm sinking deeper and deeper into the lake where I can't even see the light anymore. I don't even know up or down. That's what a crisis does to somebody. Fortunately, I never sank quite that low, but there's good and bad. There's bad points. But I always saw the light. I knew where the light was. And I knew that for me to take the next step into my life, I needed to get to a place where I could see clearly again. And so it took a few years. It took some time. A couple of years ago, I had an idea of doing this. I mean, honestly, it's still a little surreal for me to think about, a couple Christmases ago, my kids giving me a podcast book and, kind of them believing when I said, hey guys, I'm going to give this a try. And they're like, a podcast? And I'm like, I think I can do it. And I'm a busy guy with all the things going on in my life and now getting involved in becoming a public speaker and all the things that happen with that, which my website, Ben Keech Speaks, just kind of came out, and there's a demo reel on that, which took a lot of time and effort. And so all of these things are happening, but it didn't happen when I was at the bottom of the lake. I had to get to knowing there is a light at the end of the tunnel. There is a way out of this crisis. I can turn crisis into contentment. I can find peace even within the parts of myself that fell by the wayside. Even when things were all messy around me, I know there's peace within this. I just got to figure out how to get there. And the way I figured out how to get there was to reconnect with what matters to me, to reconnect with my death date, to my funeral, to how do I want to be thought of and remembered? Well, I never thought that was going to happen when I was teaching. I never thought I would be divorced. This was never supposed to be my story. I'm sure there's people out there that would have thought, no way, Mr. Keech would ever get a divorce. He talked about marriage. He talked about love. He talked about relationships. What if it happens to him? It could happen to anybody. And that's actually true. And it's sad. And I had a lot of things I had to deal with personally. And the reason why I'm kind of being open and a little vulnerable with this is because I know there's tons of people in my shoes. So let's start with the youth. Let's start with the people that can't relate yet to what I'm saying, because they're young and they're just embarking on their life. So some of the things that you can do when you're young to avoid a crisis potentially in your 40s or 50s or whenever that hits you is to stay true to what is important to you and to live in that truth. And so let me explain what I mean by that. So if you believe that you're on this earth for a particular reason, whether that is related to helping and caring for people, whether that's to be this incredible mother or father or husband or wife, or if it's related to something that you can do in your job, maybe a nurse or a doctor, to touch people's lives and to improve something about them because they know who you are. If you have that gift, then you need to stay consistent with that gift no matter what's coming your way in your life. You can't have how God blessed you with the gifts that you have. You can't ignore that. You can't get lost and get on the wrong path to where, and maybe that path deals with alcohol abuse, drugs. Maybe you can sometimes be a lazy slacker and you're just not really committed and focused how you need to be. You have something inside of you that you were meant to bless other people with. What happened? Now, here's why this matters. So you fast forward to when you're 40 or 50 and you know all of these things that you're blessed with and you've literally done nothing with it. Crisis. I guarantee you. I think it even happens more in a man's mind. I don't have all the knowledge on that to say that I'm right or wrong, but I think there's something about a man who has certain things that they could do and they just literally did none of it. And now they're like, what have I done? And they can fall deeper and deeper into they can't see the light. And so step one, know who you are, know how you're meant to affect this world, do it consistently. It matters. Now we get sidetracked because we have children and we have other things, our jobs, and we have other things in our life that can take us away from some of those things, or maybe that is your thing. But when you get to the point, when you are in the middle of your life and you haven't done the things that you wanted to do, you've fallen short from your own expectations. So step back for a second and let's first realize that there's probably a lot of blessings and things that are going on that you're not giving yourself credit for. There's things that you have been doing, but you're so stuck in what you're not, you don't realize what you are. And that's an important reality check. And sometimes, and that's where, honestly, speaking from a man, that's where a wife comes in. When your wife can speak truth into you, and I'm not talking about nagging and all those, I'm not talking about that type of mentality at all. What I'm talking about is when we as men aren't seeing ourselves accurately for the good that we are, we need our wife in that situation to speak truth that enables us and mobilizes us to, okay, yeah, that's good. And that there's something powerful about a female that can do that for her man. That, we know sometimes that females, I'm not saying males can't do this too, but we know that females can be, here are the 8 things you did wrong. And I'm just talking about yesterday. We know that can be actually really easy sometimes for women. And I'm not saying sometimes it's necessary. So it's not all bad, but we need that type of help and clarity to get refocused. Okay. So I'm 50 years old. So I'm falling short in some of these areas. For crying out loud, life is still going on. Like there's still things that we can do. Maybe we need to reevaluate our goals. Maybe we need to adjust our path. But nevertheless, we need to keep moving forward in what it means to find contentment with our life, even in the midst of a crisis. And I think all of these things are so important. And even to add one more thing, I think that, when I think of the business community and employers who employ people, right? And all of these men and women too, that are going through these different crises in their life, they go to work every day. And I think it's so valuable for employers to understand what drives and motivates their employees and how they tap into that. Because if you can get people to affect their company and affect even other people with their skill sets, their passions are going to be enabled and mobilized, and they're going to be peaceful, happy, content people, and to ultimately be better producers for their company. But you have to spend the time to do that. And that's maybe another episode, but it's I just wanted to throw it out there as a quick commercial message. Let's go to the parenting advice, and let's go to the song today. So I'm going to start with the song, and the song, I'm actually going to read some of the lyrics to this one. So the artist is Brendan James, which, as some of you know, it's him and Marcus Mumford are my favorites. The name of the song is The Lucky Ones, and I think you'll understand why I chose this one in relation to this. So it goes like this: on the edge of a moment in the land that we love, in the time that our best has to be good enough. Like all those before us, we start out alone. We race from our schoolyards into the unknown. And just kind of breaking down that point, it's a person going out into the world for the first time, leaving our school, leaving our place of education, and going out and becoming an adult and living this life. But that pressure of our best has to be good enough. I think that we oftentimes we sometimes are living our best, and it is good enough, but we don't always feel that it is. And that's where a loved one can come in and really help ease that tension that we sometimes feel in our minds. This next one is that I thought was really good. With our hearts in our hands like loaded guns, we're taking our chance. We're the lucky ones. This moment is yours. This moment is mine, and we're going to be fine. It brings me a sense of peace and contentment, that I can be everything that I want to be, that I'm supposed to be, that God created me to be. I'm going to be fine. I'm doing this. I'm good. Like, I don't have to live like I'm constantly trying to chase my tail and if I can ever measure up or not. I already do. And I'm doing the things that I need to do because I am not at the bottom of the Ozarks. I'm not in the middle of the Ozarks. I'm on a raft, right, with a cocktail, enjoying this part of my life on a beautiful lake, and just being and just observing and living and doing the things that I want to do. If I don't get above the dirty, murky lake water, though, I won't be able to do that to the best I can. So even if I'm not perfect or doing everything right, if I can see the light, if I see what I'm supposed to do, and I understand that, then I can be at peace while I'm living my life, so that on the last day, life is good. The parenting advice today is from a different perspective, and it's to the parents that are going through crisis. Number one is don't check out. And this is what happens. Don't check out. Your life matters. Unfortunately, we see a higher rate of suicide, especially with men and women. I've had personal things happen. People I know, people I've known even recently. So this is why people check out, folks. Life is just so overwhelming at times. So don't check out. Your failures do not have to mean that you failed. We all have failures. Take a deep breath, go a different direction, forgive yourself, talk to somebody that you can trust, whomever that is, someone who will tell you like it is, but also someone who believes in you. And if you don't know anything else to do, if you have children, they could use a little bit more of you. So spend time connect. Oh, I've done this wrong. I've done that wrong. I failed in this way. Get over yourself. Quit crying about your failures. Tomorrow's another day. The next day is another day. Your failures do not have to mean that you failed, but you have to see the light. Folks, love today's episode. I hope you did too. Don't forget to please let people know, subscribe, do all those things. It actually does make a difference in all these things that I'm trying to do. I think I'm close to 1,500 downloads on the podcast, and that's not even counting the YouTube part. Check out my speaking website. That's starting up. I'm looking to come and talk to youth groups and anyone that will have me. I am going all in on this part of my life. So anyway, thank you so much for listening today. I hope you can find contentment in whatever crisis you're going to. Thank you.
Thank you so much for listening. Let's keep the conversation going. You can reach out on Ben's website, www.benkeechshow.com, or on social media to chat. And please remember to subscribe so that you never miss an episode.